Hi, welcome to the Geometry SOL review video for surface area and volume. Here's your formula sheet. You're going to rely on this heavily for this particular section of the SOL. A couple of things to note. One, the L in these two figures here, the pyramid and the cone, is a slant height. That's not given to you in your abbreviations here at the bottom of this particular page. That is different than the L for any of your prisms here or here. Even for your rectangle, that would be length. Same L, just different abbreviation, or I'm sorry, different meaning. In addition, the P is going to be the perimeter of the base. They won't say it, they'll just give you perimeter, but anytime you see the letter P, you're referring to the perimeter of the base, and the base is going to be the bottom of the figure. In your first example, actually before the first example, you have to remember that volume can be referred to as filling something, containing something, holds, anything that indicates that you're talking about the space inside. And in the situations of volume, you'll always have your units cubed. So it might be feet cubed or miles cubed. Whereas in area, you might talk about painting the sides, covering something, and in this particular case, your units are going to be squared. So you'd have feet square or miles square. You need to pay attention to those descriptors if they do not specifically say volume or area. Your first example. What is the volume of the pyramid? Well, in this particular case, what we need to do is to refer back to the formula sheet, and the formula sheet for the volume of a pyramid is going to be given to us with this formula here. So you're going to have volume equals 1/3 capital B times H. It's important to remember that the volume referring to the capital V, which I failed to mention on the other side, 1/3 capital B times H. This capital B is going to be the area of the base. That's going to be, in this case, going to be the area of this rectangle, which is a side of 12 and a side of 9. Capital B always refers to the area of the base. So when we fill in these values, the base is going to be 12 times 9, and the height is going to be 8. All of that multiplied by 1/3. And in this particular case, if you calculate that, the volume is going to equal to 288. And we're going to look at the units, centimeters cubed. And we find that our answer is H. Now, one thing we might need to know is what happens if you needed to find the slant height of this particular pyramid. What is the slant height? The slant height is the length running down from the peak of the pyramid to the center of a side following the slanted sides. So if that were the case, what you would refer to is the fact that you've just created a right angled triangle where you would then use a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. This is the Pythagorean theorem. The height would be 8 centimeters squared. This length here is going to be half of the front face. That would be 6 squared is going to equal to c squared, and in this case the c would be the slant height. 8 squared is 64, plus 6 squared is 36. It's going to again give you the c squared, or the hypotenuse of your triangle. It's going to give you 100. And we would then have to square root both of these sides of the equation to find the hypotenuse would be 10, which would then indicate that the slant height here would equal to 10. If you needed the slant height for any reason. You might need the slant height if you were to talk about the surface area, or if you were to talk about the lateral area. In those two formula, you will probably need to, or you would definitely need to find L, or the slant height. Example number 2. The container at the right is composed of a right circular cylinder and a right circular cone. What is the closest to the surface area of the container? Well, in this case here, we have to remember that the surface area of this entire composite figure, the container, is not the same as the surface area of the two individual parts. The reason for that is that this cone, the surface area, would include the bottom face of this cone, and the cylinder surface area would include the top face of the cylinder. Well, the problem is this figure does not include the bottom of the cone or the top of the cylinder. So in this case, we have to look at it as an individual parts. What we really need is the lateral area of the cone. We would then need just the sides of the cylinder. So we have the lateral area of the cylinder. But we also have to include the bottom face of this figure. So then we would have the area of a circle. So looking back at our formula sheet, what we would find is that we would need the area of a circle, pi r squared. We would need the lateral area of a cone, pi rl, and we would also need the lateral area of a cylinder, 2 pi rh. So the lateral area of the cone is going to be the formula pi rl. L again is going to be the slant height. The lateral area of the cylinder is going to be 2 pi r times h, and the area of the circle is going to equal to pi radius squared. Well, the radius is involved in all of these. We need to know the radius for this figure. The radius is simply going to be half of the distance, and the radius here will be 12. So for our first fit formula, this shape, we would need the lateral area of the cone. We would use pi times the radius of 12 times the lateral height, or this, I should say the slant height, I apologize, of 13. When you calculate that, you get 490.08. Alright, and that's going to be the lateral area of the cone. Now we calculate the lateral area of the cylinder. It's going to be 2 times the pi times the radius, which we already know is 12, times the height of the cylinder, which is going to be 10. Calculating this will give us 753.98. When we're finished, we're going to add all of our final solution answers. So here, the area of the circle, we had to include that one, is just going to be equal to pi r squared. We know the radius is going to be, again, 12. Squaring that is going to give us 452.38, or I should say 0.389. 452.389. we'll call it 39 because we're going to round up. Now, when we total all of these, you will get back the answer 1,698. I misspoke. 696.449. We're not finding that here because what they actually said was which is the closest to the surface area. We didn't exactly find our precise answer. By the way, we need to include the units, which are going to be feet square. But we do see that D is the closest of all the possible answers to our own answer. Moving on to example number 3. A fish tank has the shape of a regular prism and has these dimensions, length of 20 inches, width and height, they're all given here. What is the volume of the tank when it is 4/5 full? What does this mean? Well, it's not entirely full. We only want 4/5 of the volume. And I know I'm looking at volume because we're talking about filling with water. We're going to multiply our final volume by 4/5. Well, we're going to look back at our formula sheet. We're going to find that volume of regular pyramid is going to equal to length multiplied to the width multiplied to the height. This is going to be that volume is going to equal to 20 times 10 times 12. Calculating this, the volume is going to equal to 2,400 inches cubed. That's what we're talking about. But we have to remember we only want it 4/5 full. So what we must then do is multiply this final volume by 4/5. And when we calculate that, we end up with only 1,920 inches cubed, which we then find as our option B. Your next example in this particular worksheet is example 4. It says that the volume of a cube is 64 centimeters. What is the surface area? So we're given a volume of a cube. That's important to notice. And then we're asked to convert that to surface area. Well, a cube means that all side lengths are the same, which means that the length is equal to the width is equal to the height. They're all the same value. So if we were to look at the volume of this, we would find that volume is going to equal to length multiplied to width multiplied to height. But really it's just going to be volume is going to equal to side multiplied to side multiplied to side, or volume is going to equal to side cubed. That's important because what we then need to do is take 64 equals to the side cubed. The reason why we need this is because we need to know the surface area of the cube, which we have to find the length of each side. We would then cube root each of these, and 4 would equal to the side length of our cube. So basically you have a cube where every length is going to be 4. Well, then we would have to find then the surface area formula. Our surface area of either a rectangular prism or even a cube is going to be 2 times L times W plus 2 times L times H plus 2 times W times H. And so we have 2 times L times W plus 2 times L times H plus 2 times W times H. What we really have then, because we know that all of the sides are equal to 4, we really have 2 times 4 times 4 plus another 2 times 4 times 4 plus another 2 times 4 times 4. All of that would give us a surface area that is equal to 96. We're talking area, so it's going to be centimeters square. And for the last example in this particular section, we want to find the closest area to the shaded sector of circle P. So here's circle P, it's only partially shaded, so we want part of the area of the total circle. Well, first we have to remember that the area of a circle is going to be equal to pi r squared. We know that the radius is going to be 5. So the total area, 5, time out, pi times 5 squared. That gives us an area that is equal to 78.539 centimeters squared, but we don't want that. We only want a portion of it. We would take then our total area and multiply it by the portion that we want divided by 360. We'll take 130 degrees divided by 360 degrees. The partial degrees by the total degrees would then give us the partial area that we actually require. We would then take our 78.539, multiply that by the fraction 130 over 360, and we would have only an area of 28.36 centimeters square. We're only talking about this section here, which is 130 degrees of the 360. And we find that the closest answer would be option B. Continue with the examples or with the practice problems, complete them on the internet, and let us know what you think if you have any questions.